Support comes from 0 to 60 Wraps, now in Buena Park and the city of Walnut, California. It's Shifted Perspective on Sociology of Cars podcast. I'm your host, Shift. In this new season, my goal is to bring you other professionals that also live and breathe the automotive and racing industries. Through real conversations, we'll highlight diverse career paths, insider knowledge, and the mindset required to succeed. Today, I have another special guest, another fellow Porsche instructor, Hart. Hart, thank you for being here. How are you today?
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's been a while trying to get you on here, but it's a pleasure as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Hart has a background of autocross, who we'll dive deeper into, and a lot of other expertise. Mm-hmm. But Hart, let's start off with tell something to the audience that no one really knows about you.
I'm Filipino.
Okay.
I thought about it. I said, what do I say that people don't know about me, right? Because you can hear the voice over the radio and you think, oh, white dude, right? No, Filipino.
Okay.
And interesting story. I remember my uncle heard me talking with another friend one time, right? And he's like, if I didn't know you too and I hear you behind the wall, I'd think you guys are white.
Interesting.
And interesting he said that, right? And he's Filipino too as well, by the way, FYI.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm Filipino and glad to represent the Filipino community at large. Here in California, there's a bunch of us,
Yes.
There's a bunch of us, that. And I play hockey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, play hockey. That's another thing. Besides all this stuff you brought in about me being, like pro instructor, coach at, Porsche, et cetera. And then, autocross and all that other stuff too. Yeah, but there's that. Yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You got to get your physical activity in somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. And still playing it even to this day. I got a game tomorrow, actually. So hopefully do well because that's the finals game.
Yes.
FYI.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, it's a final. So my team got into the finals. And so hopefully we lost last season, got second place. Wasn't the best, but at least we made it there. And now we're back again.
Second still podium, right?
Second still podium, but we didn't get that trophy. You didn't get the nice pictures and everything and the photos and stuff. So
Fair
hopefully
enough.
Tomorrow we'll be hopefully racing something.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you and you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope it goes well.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hart, when did you know that you had a love for cars? And where did your passion for driving begin?
That has to be when I was super, super young because my dad he still fixes cars even to this day. He has his own mechanic shop. So I've been around cars since I was way, way little and around all that stuff. So my passion for cars started way back when I'd been around his shop and stuff and just, running around there and, going through the day to day. So that's where my passion of cars really took off from there.
Nice.
And being around him, teaching me all the stuff and work with my hands to work on the cars and stuff and to, just develop an appreciation for them because specifically it's German cars.
German, okay.
German, so Mercedes and BMWs.
Nice.
So it seems like working with Porsche has that naturally branched off and keeping it in the family, keeping it German, right?
Right.
So it didn't feel too, I guess, weird to go into work for Porsche and actually coach for them. It felt like, okay, I'm just on a different brand. It's German. And the design language and everything about how the way it looks like is natural, right? It's the same. I look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's German. You could tell the differences between how certain design features look like in a German car versus a Japanese car, for instance, right? So that's where my passion started. And then the car racing stuff, and you did ask about the car racing stuff, right?
Where you recognize
so that, I can't really pinpoint when, but back in the 90s and stuff, I always liked watching Formula One. So it's 90s Formula One, and that's the era that I latched onto. And I remember specifically back in 94, and I started watching right after, unfortunately, when Ayrton Senna died, after he died back in March of that 94. And that's when that really took off. So I've been a fan since then, but I was also watching Indy cars, kart, when that was around and stuff. And back during that golden era, of all the drivers, and I know Alex Zanardi just passed away, unfortunately. So I remember watching him a lot, and Jimmy Vasser and Al Unser Jr., all those drivers, right? So that era I watched a lot, but I wasn't really watching a lot of, I'd say sports car stuff. I didn't get into that till later, right? So, like Le Mans I wasn't watching or anything heard stuff about DTM, but mostly it was just all Formula One and Indy cars is what I was watching mainly. Didn't watch NASCARs. Too boring for me.
Okay.
I couldn't stand
Didn't
seeing
like circles?
Don't like circles, turning left. It's like, let's do a race where we're just turning left the whole time.
Yeah.
Let's just do that. No, I like turns. So that's what got me spurned onto that. Yeah, sports car racing I was watching too. Daytona 24 Hours, Sebring, but not really Le Mans too much. But it was mainly, Formula One is what I was watching mostly.
Nice.
So that's what really drew me in. And then sometime in the early 2000s, I tallied off when the racing got boring. And a lot of the drivers from that era were retiring or had moved on. Right.
Now, you mentioned like sports cars era. At what point did you see that and recognize that for yourself? And what got your attention?
Back in the 90s, I remember this IMSA, right? Because IMSA was there in the 90s, then it went away. And then it went through the whole thing where it was like the World Sports Car Series, and then it went through all these other shakeups and everything, just like when IndyCar had its big rift with IRL, right? When that big open wheel fiasco happened, right? And then now IMSA's back. So that, I think, came about when I just would catch races on ESPN. When you had two ESPNs, you had ESPN 1, you had ESPN 2.
1 and 2.
Right, 1 and 2. So all the main stuff was on, main sports was on 1, but then on 2, you'd catch all the other stuff that you wouldn't show on 1, right? So I remember catching Daytona 24 and seeing sports car racing there too as well, but not really seeing a lot of the European stuff. I didn't really see a lot of the European stuff because Le Mans, I don't recall if they actually showed Le Mans on ESPN. I don't think they did, or even on like regular network television, like Channel 4, or like just stuff you can get free air, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like you got social media and everything, so it's so easy to get access to that now, right? You can just dial it up on YouTube, or you can pay to watch it on another channel, right? But back then, sports car I had to catch every now and then just on ESPN or ESPN2. Whenever we show it. And then in the rare occurrence, they would show it on network TV. And this was back then when you had to see TV Guide.
Yes.
If the kids can remember that far back. TV Guide.
Ourselves.
Yeah, TV Guide, or if you're on like Spectrum Cable, there would be a channel you dial to that'd show you what was coming up the next hour, right? I forgot what the channel guide was called, but then you find out, oh, that's on, then you go to that channel on cable now. But now that doesn't matter anymore because you got satellite, right? You got satellite TV, you got direct TV, so you can see the schedule the whole time, right? There's no other way around that. Yeah. But yeah, that's how it used to be back then. You used to catch those races by either looking them up or looking in a TV guide, or just how I would also know is Racer Magazine.
Yes,
that's another thing that I would know. I remember.
So did you read the magazines at stores?
I got stacks and stacks of that stuff.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
You mean magazine?
Yeah, like any that caught your attention at that time, or really influenced you.
Now, out of the stacks, okay, and I remember from that era, there was this one Racer magazine I had with the Ferrari F1 car from 94, 95, all on the cover, the 412 T1. Which is one of the sweetest sounding F1 cars in history, right? That V12 screeching, right? You don't hear V12s anymore around the F1 track, right?
Unfortunately.
Totally gone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I remember that, but then all the other racer magazines I would just eat up, just buy every single month.
Nice.
And I got a stack of them along with, and also the import tuner stuff too.
Import tuner?
Yeah.
Yep. I was a fan of those.
So I had to have a bunch of those, have a bunch of Super Street, but my value in the collection, and I still have it, is Sport Compact Car.
That too. That's an OG one.
Because that one really had the brains and told you exactly how to tune a car, right? Versus all the aesthetic stuff that Super Street would show, or any of the other magazines would show. So everybody would read that. I would read that if I wanted to know more technical stuff, So, I mean, if you gave me a choice between buying that and Super Street, I'd buy Sport Compact Car. Because we know Super Street's all, bikini models and stuff and all that. Hot import nights and all that other stuff back then, which is great, because that's how the tuner culture and how the industry was back then.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But then sadly, because, social media came about and people can get stuff on the internet, print went away. Right. So that was a sad thing to see go, because I saw, a bunch of, like car magazines every single month, a bunch of them just shrink down from, like 10 to 5 and then just sadly 2. And there's barely anything on the shelves now,
Yeah. We lived a certain era, right?
Yeah, I know. And I missed that era.
Now, Hart, it's probably safe to say that autocross was a significant part of your driving history. Tell us more about how you started and how it came to be.
Okay, well, bikes.
Like bicycles or
bicycles?
Okay.
Because since in the time in the 90s, I couldn't drive. I didn't drive until I was 18. So to get to and from the school, I'd bike, right? So bicycles was a big thing for me to get on two wheels and imagine I was, blitzing down a straight and, having fun shifting gears and all that stuff. So that's where it started, right? But I remember this clearly, and this place still exists today, Go-Kart World in Carson, right across the street.
That place.
Right across the street, just a few miles down from where the Porsche Experience Center is. And that was the first time I ever went. My dad took me there to go on go-karts. That was my first four-wheel experience.
Wow.
On the slick track there, that, it's that metal there, and they put baby powder on to allow the car to slide, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to what we put on the low friction track. But I remember that was the first time I went out there and actually was behind the wheel of a go-kart, being able to slide it, feel all of that. And so that's where it all started and took off from there.
Wow.
Yeah. But it wasn't until, God, what was that? 2004, not 20, but 2004, where I actually turned the wheel behind a car and finally went to my first autocross. So, yeah.
What was that first car?
There was the Nissan 240SX, the 92 Nissan 240SX, which I still wish I had to this day, but sadly had to give up. But prior to that, interestingly enough, I wasn't hooked by autocross yet. What happened was I had friends who were in it, and I remember to this day, and you probably could agree with me on this one, but somebody got a 2002, 2003 Spec R Nissan Sentra B15, right? He took me for a ride in that car, and I'm like, oh, okay, I could do this. And interestingly enough, this was in Hollywood Park back then in Inglewood. That is now, I think, SoFi Stadium or whatever, right across from the Forum, when it was called the Forum, right? So that was my first taste of seeing autocross. And that same venue was the first venue I also autocrossed at too as well. But when I first took my first rides in, that Sentra, I didn't immediately say, okay, I'm going to come the next month and start autocrossing. I got kind of cold feet, right? So I think that was back in 2002, 2003. Yeah, when the Sentra first came out.
Right.
Sentra first came out. And, I thought, okay, I don't really have a car to autocross. What car can I autocross? Because at that time, it was my very first car. I had an 85 Nissan 200 SX.
Nice.
Hatchback.
Yep.
A Silvia S12, as if for you JDM fans out there. So I had that. It was an automatic, and I think it was because of the automatic was just a little bit discouraging. So like, who races an automatic on an autocross course, right? Who does that?
Especially the 90s automatics were very sluggish.
Oh yeah, that thing had 8 spark plugs, was a 2-liter motor. And 8 spark plugs, yes, wow. 2 per cylinder. That's what Nissan had on that design.
Interesting.
And I used to auto shift it with a stick. Like I used to go from 1 to 2, pretend I was, gear shifting, right?
Right.
And then, sat on that for how many years? And then I ended up actually, the first autocross car I got was not my first 240. It was my second one.
Oh, okay.
Because the first one I got was a 93 240SX Coupe, black, but automatic.
Okay.
And so when I got that, I thought, okay, I'll take this car autocrossing maybe, but the fact it was automatic discouraged me. And then what ended up happening was I modified it to a point where it's like, okay, I could do this, but then got into an accident with it. Of all things, racing my dad.
Wow. All right.
Racing my dad. And I remember where it happened, how it happened. Went through a corner too fast. Didn't know the heck what I was doing. I understeered straight from one end of the side of the road to the other end and went head on with, ironically, a Nissan Maxima. Oh, man. And it was, I think, a early 90s Maxima.
Wow.
And it wasn't a total like head on. It was my driver's side with his driver's side, I think. And he just went into the other lane of traffic, boom, hit him.
Wow.
And let's just say that car was totaled.
Right. Yeah.
That car was totaled, and I felt more of a bruise to my ego than anything. And my dad felt bad too. And after all that happened, it was just like, you know what? You got to go to autocross. You got to get on track.
Did you immediately get the second 240 after that?
The second one came, I think, about 2 months after.
A little bit later. Okay.
And the best thing about it was stick shift.
Okay.
And to me, I had not known how to drive stick until that point. I'd been driving automatics the whole time since I got my license in 99, right? Man, I feel ancient now, but since 99, right? So then my dad, I remember him saying, he's like, well, you know how to drive already, and you just need to learn how to just shift gears.
Yeah.
That's it. The hard part is starting and stopping.
Did you practice at Autocross, or were you doing it like off onto the street?
I was doing it off on the street.
Yeah.
So like I'd go in the parking lot there and just practice starting and stopping. Although, ironically, the first time I ever encountered stick was back in 99, 2000. And that was, this is for other JDM people, a Nissan Pulsar.
The Pulsar.
If you remember what a Nissan Pulsar is, for all of you listening, 2-door, small little, car, commuter car, right? You remember just, putting around in that around the parking lot, learning how to just shift gears from 1 to 2 and then stop and not stall the motor. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my first taste of driving a stick.
Okay.
But then fast forward to 2003, 2004, got the 240 and then never looked back. Entered my first autocross there, did an autocross school actually. Back then when they used to have a lot of autocross schools with a CCA region, and then never looked back. And then I just took off from there.
Nice. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did being a great driver at the time, did it impress the ladies around you?
Did being a great driver? It took me a while to become a great driver. I don't think I was a great driver. I mean, maybe I'd always considered myself just a little better than most, right? I always considered myself better, just a little bit better than the other drivers out there. Did it impress the ladies? Well, put it this way, okay. Autocross ranks is a male-dominated sport, unfortunately, right? And at that time, the majority of people out there were guys, right? And if you see a lady out there, she's either the girlfriend of the guy who's racing, or she got into it somehow and she's been there for a while, right? So it's a minority.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, a lot of people, the autocross ranks will say, if you see a woman out there, it's like a unicorn.
Right.
You're going, whoa, okay, there's a woman out here competing. That's awesome, but they're in the minority, right? But now, when I started back in 2004, wasn't a lot of ladies. But now, because I think it's become more accessible, you see more and more women, ladies getting out there and actually racing, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
That's good to see that. It's good to see that demographic finally go out there and rip around, right?
Exactly.
But in terms of like, did it impress their ladies? Maybe. I don't think it got me a number or something like that. Maybe it might have. But yeah, taking past, women that I dated out there, maybe it might have impressed them, but not really, because they weren't really car girls or girls that were into cars, put it that way.
Okay. So even during the time of dating, that even when you mention, hey, yeah, I do this on the side, I autocross this and that, they just don't bat an eye.
They don't bat an eye at it unless you have, a woman that's really into that stuff, right? Mechanical stuff, cars and everything. But at that time, it's like, well, no, I wouldn't say it impressed the ladies. Drifting is another thing. That's another thing I got into, though. Yeah. And I'd have to say that came shortly after I started autocrossing, about, I'd say, 2 years after.
Okay.
A couple of friends, and they know who they are if they listen to this, got me into that because they had 240s. And at that time, in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, the 240 was the car to have, along with, the Corolla, the A86, and drifting was already starting to come up and boom, from Japan, right? Yeah. Yeah. So of course I got pulled into that world because I met these two friends. One of them still my best friend. The other one, she's already moved on. I met them at an autocross, and they just came up to me and said, "Hey, do you drift your car?" I go, "You're 240." I go, "No." I'm like, "You want to?" I'm like, "Sure." And this was back then when they used to have drift days.
Yes.
Drift day back at Cal Speedway, which, God, I missed that venue, along with El Toro, right? So I remember going to my first drift day with my 240 that I still autocrossed, right? But set up a little differently, and went to 3 straight of them. My schedule used to be this, right? I used to autocross in the same month, used to autocross and then drift. So like beginning of the month, autocross, maybe the end of the month, drift, and then repeat again for the next month.
Wow, rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. That's how it used to be.
That's awesome. Now, Hart, personally, what's your favorite driver's car or cars, and why?
E36 M3s, because I used to autocross those two as well. So good driver's car. Although that was kind of spoiled by E46 M3s that I competed, drove other friends, E46 M3s. I'm like, this is bad. I'm like, this is making me have not such a good opinion on my E36 M3.
I mean, naturally, it's a newer, more modern car.
It's newer. But in production-wise, because it's kind of difficult for me to say, because if I drive the car, then I've driven a lot of cars, especially also working at my dad's shop too. I've driven a ton of cars. but mostly all Mercedes and BMWs, right? We do get Japanese cars in, but nothing, high performance unless it's an AMG package car, right? Like I remember customers always bringing in like E55 AMGs or, some rare models too as well that you wouldn't see. I guess I would say kind of biased my car, my 240, as an accessible car because you could do so many things with a 240, right?
Right.
Back then when I first started, though, everything was kind of like, well, out of your backyard, you didn't have a lot of parts availability, right? So the parts were limited. So pretty much year after year, more parts would start coming out for the car. Suspension development is like through the roof now. You can get everything off the shelf and build a drift car really easily, right? But back when I first started, man, you had to like do your research. Right. You had to do your research because a lot of guys in the road race scene with 240s or in the autocross scene were doing things that no other people were doing with 240s at the time. One car that comes to mind during that era was, remember his name, PJ Corrales. He raced at Nationals in autocross. He had an S14 240 that he developed a lot with a Coney setup, with a KAT. He did not engine swap the car. It was a KAT, so that was part of the inspiration to why I wanted to make my car KAT, which it eventually became, right? Nice. So in terms of other cars, God, there's too many other cars to name off my head, but mine that S2000s, although I've raced some of them and I like the feel of them. If I could actually get one on my hands and actually build one, I'd want to. Yeah. Just because it's not stupid crazy money, although they're getting more. I hear they're getting more expensive.
They're holding their value pretty well.
Ugh.
Yeah.
What are we looking at now?
They're around $30K still.
Jesus
for
Christ.
a really, really, really nice one.
Wow.
Yeah.
$30K for that?
Yeah.
Eesh, okay. Need something more accessible.
On that topic, because obviously the market's a little different. If you could recommend any car to a noob that's just getting started, what would you tell them to get into?
Well, Miata's always the answer, right?
It definitely
Miata's always the answer. So Miata would be on my top there because you could take a bone stock one and just drive it. As a matter of fact, when I tell people when they get into autocross or any sort of form of motorsports, just get the car stock and just maintenance it. Yeah. Make sure that there's no major leaks, belts are good, your brakes are good, your tires are good, and just take it out there and drive. Because that's how I started. Although with my 240, it was lightly modified. It had wheels on it, had Falcons on it. I think it had suspension setup, lowering springs, and adjustable shocks. That was it. That's how I started. But stock power level. Yeah, it was not modified in the engine in any way. Matter of fact, I didn't touch the engine in my car until when was that? Maybe 3 or 4 years after that I started autocrossing. But yeah, my recommendation is Miata would be one. Honda Fits is another one because I see a lot out there in terms of, buying some of those and off-the-shelf parts that you can modify, and it's still a good daily commuter, right? Right. That you don't have to break the bank to have fun with that car, right? So there's those cars there, but then off the top of my head, and then of course there's the FRS, the twins, the FRS BRZs. Yep. As I know you and I have discussed about that, you were trying to get me to get on that bandwagon for a while.
Trying,
still trying. And I'd see and I'm no stranger to that too because I competed in those cars too as well back when they first came out. Specifically FRS, not BRZ. Right. And the platform was still developing for that. But back then, I remember competing in them. It's a well-balanced car. That's another accessible one. But I think that's 3 I can name off the top of my head. I mean, there are some unconventional ones out there. Like the one autocross build I've seen is a Toyota Corolla Matrix mix. Oh. But an early one, like from the early 2003, 2004, when it had that XRS, the Yamaha motor, the Yamaha head on it. Yes. Right? There's one guy, I forgot his name, it'll come later, but he's competed in that car pretty much since he started autocrossing. Really? Still doing it? And all he's done is he's modified it, made it better, and he's really fast now. I think his name's Matt Davis, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of people that I remember encountering in autocross during the days when I was out there. Yeah. But yeah, that Corolla is an unconventional one. It's like, why would you autocross a Corolla, right? Right. Well, not until you drive it, then you know. Right. Yeah. And I used to know a friend that autocrossed a Camry. A Camry? Okay. A 4-door Camry. I'd want to say late 2010s, maybe early 2010s, 2012 or something. He's still around, but yeah, he autocrossed that dang thing. Nice. He put RPF 1s on it.
Wow. Okay.
He put RPF ones on it and was going around the autocross course and having a ball, but that's the beauty of autocross. You can take any car, doesn't matter what the heck it is, and just take it there and just drive it. Who cares? I think one of the coolest one I saw recently, I think the past year, was a RAV4.
A RAV4?
Somebody had a 2-door RAV4 that they lowered and they supercharged it.
Oh.
They I think supercharged or turbocharged the motor, and he was going around the track and the course. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? But no, it was really rad and really cool to see that go around. So that just shows you, hey, somebody has an idea to run a car that nobody else runs, and they got a will to do it and they want to build it. They can take it out there and drive. That's the beauty of autocross, right? And most autocrossers won't scoff at you. They'll be like, hey, that's cool.
Right.
I
mean, you run what you brung, right?
Pretty much. That's what it is.
It's the beauty of that.
Yeah. So you can go from as low mundane as you want, even a stock driver, to as crazy as you want, where you got guys that are trailering in cars, right? And it's like a purpose-built car that weighs less than 1,000 pounds with the driver in it, or over 1,000, right? Yeah. There's classes for that. Right. And that's the thing. So it has something for everybody. Now,
you've competed for years in autocross. Now, you touched a bit on, the 240 and modifying it. Mm-hmm. What was I'm sure you did a lot of stuff, so we'll keep it to very minimal. What were very specific mods that you did to the 240 that set you apart from your competition?
First one was the subframe, which I put an S14 subframe in that S13 chassis because it's a coupe, right? Specifically the 14 because less anti-squat.
Okay.
Yeah, actually more squat, not anti-squat. The 13's frame was designed more around anti-squat, so it's easier to drift. But the 14 frame, if you put that frame side by side with the 13, you'll see how they changed the angles on some of the mounting points for the arms, right? A little bit more flatter towards 90. Because of that, the car sits a little better, puts power to the ground much better. So I remember putting that in my car, and that instantly made the car much better. It's just, wow, it can put down power better, et cetera, et cetera. Other factor to that was differential, LSD. Which back then that was the thing to have, especially if you were drifting, right? If you had you have an open diff, peg legger, one wheel tire fire, you can't drift, right? Although I've done it too. I've slid a car around like that, but it will not lay down consistent drifting, right?
Yeah, like it's possible, but it won't sustain.
No. And then I remember I went from open to VLSD, viscous, right? Which not consistent. Not consistent. And then after that came a Cusco, a type 1.5 LSD, which I think that was an MZ version. I'm going to get technical here, but it was locked. The plates were arranged in such a way that it locked very super tight, even on throttle, off throttle. So anybody who drove the car, if they weren't ready for it, the car would spin. Interesting. If you didn't have a quick counter steer or a quick reaction to the rear locking, oh God, you're going around. Right. But it wasn't as aggressive as a two-way.
Okay.
So it was a 1.5 that just locked very tight. And then it got to a point where it's like, well, in the development of the car, it's like, well, if you want to put down power better out of corners, you need a better LSD or you need to reconfigure this LSD. And then there were whispers of the OS Geekin LSD.
Yeah.
And so people would breathe on that and say, it's like the OS Geekin's the way to go, et cetera, the way it locks, blah, blah, blah. So then I found out that a friend of mine was selling one for an S14. I grabbed it, put it on, and I was like, oh, crap. I could see what the big deal is about.
It's a night and day difference?
Night and day difference. Being able to lay down power and being able to go faster around corners, being able to just overall overlap just much quicker,
Yes.
Best way a person described it to me, and I still remember, he goes, well, if you think about it, you had an LSD and you're slower about a tenth, per corner. That adds up to almost a second, or maybe how many tenths being off from your competition in autocross. And in autocross, you can lose by 1,000th, you can lose by a tenth, you can lose by just a blink of an eye. So those make differences, right? So he said, well, if you get this Always Geeking LSD, because I remember being on the fence about buying it off my friend, he said, if this makes you about little bit of a tenth or two quicker per corner over that, you average that, you're going to be quicker overall by maybe even a second or two once you get used to how the way it locks.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I took his advice, put it in there, and bang, the car was just night and day difference. Instead of the car sliding out of corners too much and I can't put power down, this thing was just locking in, digging in, and I'm able to just get out of that corner much, much better.
Nice.
So I also had to adjust my driving too as well because
Of course.
I'm so used to that diff locking so super tight on the Cusco. And then once I switched to that, it got to more, finesse, how, your throttle foot, how much are you adding mid corner out, and then how smoother can you get back on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was also one of the setup things for that. But then also the biggest thing is the driver.
Of course, yeah.
Biggest thing is the driver, and there are some things I did in drifting that carried over to autocross that weren't beneficial. Put it that way, such as sliding the car too much. But then there were also other things that carried over in that I viewed it as that if I do drifting at the same time as autocross, it's giving me that window or giving me that sight to see, okay, how far can the car be pushed without spinning, right? Where's my edge,
Yes.
right? So that helped me out. So that's the other thing. Those are the three top things I'd say that it got me to where I got to in autocross with my 240.
Nice. Yeah, it's very insightful with that.
Mm-hmm.
Trial and error, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what it goes with.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for newbies that are looking to begin autocross, what are some do's and don'ts that you would recommend to them?
Well, the first thing I always say is don't be afraid to go out there and put yourself out there. That's the biggest thing I say. Plus, don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions because you get a lot of newbies that get intimidated and they don't want to ask or talk to people. And I know about this because I used to work on registration team for the autocrosses. So I used to answer a lot of questions and talk to new people and then get them going, right? So the first thing is don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to make any mistakes, right? The worst I've seen is guys who come in there and they try to act all tough and say, oh yeah, I know this. I've done this. I've been in the canyons. I've done this. That, well, you have to realize that don't mean crap out here. When you come to this venue, you have to learn the ropes and, prove it not only to the other people around you, but to yourself. Right. Yeah. So the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to get out there and just ask questions, because you have to think about it. I was where you were at when you first came in here. So wide-eyed, didn't know what the heck to do. Intimidated, scared, nervous, everything, right? So just come in with an open mind and be prepared to learn, So that's the biggest thing I would say for newbies that first go into autocross. And the other thing would be doesn't matter what car you bring out there. You can bring your mom's Camry, bring your mom's Camry, or bring any car out there and just drive it. The hard part is, I want to do it, make up your mind. But then the biggest hurdle to overcome is actually getting out there.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that I've encountered that go, oh, I need to get tires. Oh, I need to get brakes. Oh, I need to do this. No, screw it. Just make sure the car is running fine. Run it the way it is. Drive the tires off. If it smells after, so what? If it didn't break during the autocross, then I call that a success.
Yeah.
You're able to drive it home and have no issues. Success.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the biggest thing. And I really think it's just that for the newbies to get over, because a lot of guys I've encountered think they need to have this certain type of car to go in and do this sport and to compete or even go to track. And I've encountered so many guys out there that they'll start off with one guy I remember, he started off with a 914, a Porsche.
Nice.
He started off with a Porsche 914 competing in my class, then found, okay, this isn't the way to go. So he tried other cars and he eventually ended up with a 350Z.
Okay.
And he competed in that car and he became faster and faster. But you see, that's the thing. You got to try out different cars and find, okay, what's your flavor?
Right.
Which one do you really like and which one really suits your style of driving, and what's your goal, what's your aim, that's the biggest thing, right? Are we looking to do this autocross thing for a while, or are we looking to go to track, or are we looking to go to drift, or are we doing all these things, right? So find a platform that you can do all of them in. That's why I said Miata.
Yeah.
I said Miata because that platform I've drifted on too, competed in autocross too, and it's a great all-around platform, and plus it doesn't break the bank in terms of you spending dollars, to keep the car running, but also modify it, and then also the entry fees, which are a lot now, to do an event, right? So that's the biggest thing.
Nice. Now, speaking of budgeting, so what does your typical budget for autocross look like, and what type of expenses should a newbie consider? And what to expect?
Ooh. Entry fee is one thing. That's one. But then it's also, you got to consider tires. Tires is one of the biggest things that can make or break your car handling well or not, suspension good or not, right?
Typically, what are entry fees looking at?
Nowadays, where I was at, and I'm going to make a shameless plug, the corner exit services. They're really good. You're looking at about over $100-something, maybe $120, $130 for entry, right?
Okay.
But that is the whole day.
Yes.
Right. That's the whole day. And from what I hear, it's a no work autocross, people, meaning you don't have to stand out there and shag cones.
Nice. That's a bonus.
Because back then in the old days, the autocrosses that were run under SCCA and region is run, work.
Yeah.
So when you're not working, you're running, or when you're running, or when you're, when you're running, you're not working. Either or, you're out there shagging cones on the course, and that in and of itself could be very tiresome.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working a slalom,
Of course, yeah.
which the slalom gets massacred, and you're running back and forth, and because you're young, the older guard will tend to put you on a slalom because you got the legs to run back and forth, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's gotten to the point now where no work autocross is a thing, although some regions still make you work. Some events will still have to have you work, which is fine. That's part of the dues,
Right.
the part of you learning it. But also it's good too, because being out on the track, being out in the autocross course, seeing how certain cars were running through certain corners and seeing how they were taking them, seeing how the cars would handle, it's also a treat in and of itself to see those cars go around, right? To see those cars buzz by you and you're only 100 feet away. 50 or 100 feet away, seeing these cars buzz by you. And that's excitement, right? You could feel it shudder by you. Although other people are looking at, do I have to work out there again? It's like, well, take it as that. Well, if you're having trouble with a section on the course and you work that section of the course and you see how the way, he's taking that line. Okay, he's breaking that late. Okay, then you learn some things. Right?
Exactly.
So that's how the way I viewed it when I would work course. But also, if you're hanging out with your buddy on course and you're talking, you're just kind of, hanging out, watching cars go by. What better time is that?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so you mentioned parts. So tires, obviously, it's a big one.
Tires, brakes, of course, the engine itself, you got to make sure that's in good working order, no major leaks or anything. It's well maintained and all that other stuff. God, what else? Of course, you need a helmet.
Okay.
Helmet and other things, gloves is that. But typical budget. It depends also if you decide to run, a few events a year or you're running like a whole season. Because if you run a whole season where you're trying to compete and get an award at the end of the year, a jacket as they call it, because in SCCA you get championship jackets.
Oh, that's cool.
With your name on it, the champion class and stuff on it. It says champion on the back. So I have one of those. That was from 2014. My only one I got. Everything else was either like a second place finish or a third or a fourth in class, which is tough because you have a lot of talent. Especially here in SoCal, in Southern California, you have a lot of talented drivers here and a lot of alien drivers too, that you just can't explain why are they quick. But yeah, it depends on how many events you want to run it during the season. If you want to run a full season, which is, back then it was like 12 events.
12 in a season.
That's a lot, 12 for the season.
Yeah, it is.
Or you're running half the time. It just depends on, what you're willing to do and what you're willing to spend too.
Right.
Especially if you have a car that eats up a lot of consumables, right? We're talking about tires, we're talking about brakes, stuff like that, maintenance, wear and tear items on the car, right? I mean, you can operate within a budget. There's a way to do that. Plus, there's also the allure of co-driving, where you're sharing a car with another driver. You're halving the cost with him, but you're competing in the same car. And it's either your car, you have him paying part of your dues, some of your entry fees, maybe some maintenance on the car, whatever you want to agree to do, or you're with him in his car and you are paying for some of the entry fees and some of the maintenance, et cetera, all that other stuff. So there's that co-driving thing that you can have, which I've done before in the past.
Nice.
And it's worked out great. Yeah. And it actually helps with costs for entry and stuff.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good insight. Because some people might just, what I'm hearing is just run what you bring, right? Could be your mom's minivan, station wagon, whatever. But at the end of the day, you just got to account for the consumables, right? And then just, like you said, the driver mod. Yeah. That's important.
Yes, correct. Spend on that way more than you would on anything that you can throw on the car: suspension, exhaust, power adders. Yes. You got to tighten the nut behind the wheel before you do anything else, because back then it was preached, and I still preach it now: seat time, seat time, seat time. Yes. The more seat time you get, the better you're going to get. It's just like any sport, right? The more you practice at it, the better you're going to get. Hockey, no different, as I played that for many years. Any sport, tennis, football, basketball, the more you spend your time on that craft and the more you focus on what you want to get better at, the better you're going to become, right? Yes. So spend the time on that. And that's the path that I took. Back when I first started, I didn't spend on a lot of mods. I spent more on I wanted to get out there and just keep driving, do event after event and learn, you know. because the autocross community is pretty good at really welcoming you in, but at the same time having you learn the ropes. So if you don't know what's happening, you can always ask a seasoned veteran or take a ride along with him.
Yeah.
And then see what they're doing and then say, okay, light bulb goes off. I could see how he's driving this corner. Boom. I should try and incorporate that into the way I'm driving. Right.
Yes.
So you got that working for you. And plus most of it is free. I mean, I don't think the instructors there, to my knowledge, and me personally too, working for Corner Exit, I don't charge any fees for giving, words of advice or showing, taking their car out for a run or sitting shotgun with them, like, we've done at Porsche, to show and to tell them, okay, I'm critiquing your driving and I'm seeing you're doing these things, right? So yeah, like I said, it goes back to my whole thing about don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And actually, you'll learn more from the mistakes than you do the successes.
Yeah.
And I made a bunch of mistakes autocrossing from when I first started to even now. It's just learning from those mistakes. So that way, next time when it comes about, you don't do it again, or you're able to recognize it and then go, okay, this is coming on. I know what to do next. And then you're better able to prepare how to drive around a course better, or, God, what's the word? But basically be set up to handle that when it comes about.
Yes, just be better prepared for it. Yeah. Now, you mentioned you got your championship jacket once, right? Was that in the 240?
Yeah.
Okay. So what specifically, because I know we touched on some mods that you did in the 240. At that time, what set your 240 apart to be able to get you that championship jacket?
Well,
I know you said you took, 5 years before you did anything to the engine?
Well, that was back because before it became turbocharged, I focused on making it just normally aspirated, tuning, right? So
Gotcha.
I got a Jim Wolf tune, catback, all the bolt-on stuffs.
Yes.
But then I also went and put cams in the car. I put BC Crowder Stage 2 cams in it. So it got a good mid-range, right? Okay. So that, and headers too, hot shot headers. I remember that. You can't find those anymore.
Wow, haven't heard that in a long time.
Hot shots they were the best out of the bunch during what was available at that time. Because there wasn't a lot of support for the KA back then when I first started in autocross, and from the mid to the late 2000s until now, you got companies like Tomei building stuff for the KA, which blew my mind. I'm like, crap, they're building stuff for the KA? Yeah. So back then, you didn't have a lot of support, and you only had Jim Wolf with cams, and you had BC Crowder with cams too as well, or you got your own cam and you regrinded it, right? And you just put it to your spec. So shoved those in there, tuned the ECU, did that, and that's what I was running on. And I think I first turbocharged the KA back in 2000, God, what was it? I want to say 2010, or maybe 2009, 2010, maybe even later than that. But anyways, yeah. So what drove me to that is, I remember this, I gotta remember his name, John Williams. He told me that you're going to get to a point where you're getting good at the car, you're getting good at the setup, and you get so good at it that you'll reach a plateau. And once you reach that plateau, that's when you go, okay, then you got to start adding power. And I had reached that plateau with the setup that I couldn't get any more out of it and get faster without adding a little bit more power. And so the question was, do you turbocharge the KA or do you get an SR motor, right? Which at that time, SR motors you could get, but I wasn't keen on doing it because I wanted to just turbocharge the KA and found there was just more support and it'd just be more fun to do. Plus, I took it on as that, well, I'm going to be building this motor myself and I want to learn. Nice. Hands-on, right?
You and your dad?
Yes. Yeah. What better way to do that? So, God, I got to look back in my notes, but I think we probably turbocharged it sometime around 2011, 2012, and that was on a stock bottom end. Okay. We just bolted it on, did a tune. That's it. Stock bottom end. Didn't put the PSI past, I think stock internals on a K are good to about 8 PSI, 10 PSI. And there's a lot of internet forum boards that say, oh, no, you can hit 20 on that thing. Yeah, once, and that's it.
Yeah.
One hit and done, right? So what ended up happening was, I competed on that for a while. And I remember this day too. And it had to be in 2012. I remember one of my autocross, and I call him Autocross Sensei. Autocross Sensei, his name is Steve Oblinas. He's still out there autocrossing. And I was getting a lot of advice from him on how to become quicker and stuff. We're competing in a regional, and he's working course. And I go out there, I compete. Pull him back in, park the car. He walks past me. He goes, dude, you look like a snail out there. You need to go faster. He goes, turn up the boost. Wow. What do? Stupidly, I turn up the boost. So I go on the run. Next set of runs I do, get out there. Car's great. Boom. It's hitting everything. I'll have the power, etc. I don't know how much I turned it up by, but maybe about a few bars more, whatever. As soon as I'm pulling off, right, and you get past the finish towards the flag man and the time's up person, car starts shaking violently.
Oh, no.
Like, oh, crap. All this white smoke starts coming out the tailpipe. I had blown the head. And so what ended up happening was park the car and couldn't compete the rest. And I think I co-drove with somebody the rest of the weekend. Steve comes by, oh, dude, what happened? He said, that car, you looked fast around there. I said, it's Steve, I blew the motor. And he goes and looks at me. He goes, oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
Well, I like to say you got to pay to play, right?
Right.
Now, did you ever dyno that car or know how much it was actually making?
I dynoed it when it was NA.
Okay.
So when it was NA, because with all the bolt-ons and everything, it was pushing out about 155. And I remember these numbers. I was on a Dynapack at Church Automotive, FYI.
Church? Okay.
Church.
Yeah.
This is back then at Church Automotive, which I actually coached the guy, by the way.
Really?
That was awesome. Yeah. I coached him. Yeah.
Full circle.
And full circle. So when we dynoed at 155 horsepower,
okay.
164 foot-pounds torque.
Okay.
And I remember those numbers off the top of my head because I remember looking at it because people would sit with me in the car and say, this feels like, you got more than your stock standard, which is, I think for K's at the time, 150 horsepower.
At the crank,
yeah. Stock, right? So that means that it was a Dynapack. So we took the wheels off and it's just mounted on the hub. There's some loss. So I don't know how much the loss was, 10%, 20%. So that means my K was maybe putting out near 180. Maybe. Okay. Sounds reasonable. Don't quote me on those numbers. But it was very healthy and it pulled very, very nicely, et cetera, right?
Would you say with boost is probably closer to like 300?
I want to be conservative and see even on 8 to 10 PSI, we're looking at about maybe 265 to 275, maybe 280. It wasn't pushing 300.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, kept the BC Stage 2 crowd cams in it too, along with Jim Wolf adjustable camel gears, which I didn't mess around with too much. I was going to start messing around with it to make a little bit more power. So combine that with the turbocharger size, which was it was an S14 turbo. First started off with,
yes.
Because a smaller T25 off of a red top SR would not be enough. It would be good at the low end and then wheeze towards the middle and wouldn't carry over into the top, right?
Yeah, they fall off.
And so I got an S14 turbo that I ran for a while, and then that sucker freaking screwed up because I remember at one drift event, there's all this oil crap on the back of my car going, okay, what the heck is this? Started blowing out smoke out the tailpipe and the turbo had failed, right? And it's an S14 single ball bearing, right? Could have gotten an S15 Spec R turbo, which is dual ball bearing, could spin and actually put more power down. Plus there was also the talk of, and I'm going to say this out there and I'm pretty sure the kids don't know this, the Disco Potato Turbo.
Another OG term.
OG term, right? Disco Potato Turbo. There was the talk about doing that. But then I had friends that worked at, or actually were sponsored by old parts, whatever, from China, JDM Sport, whatever. I'll mention that too. So I ended up getting the equivalent of, I think, a GT 2871R.
Okay.
But it basically was a Chinese turbo. It was a little larger.
Yeah.
It was a little larger, pushed a little bit more. And it was fine. It lasted pretty much like a whole season and a half.
That's not bad.
And that got put in there, and that for the championship year, that's what I ran with that setup and everything with Jim Wolf ECU tuned to what it was with all the setup and everything. And that was what got me in there in 2014. And that was what I ran with. But unfortunately, towards the end of the season, the car started acting funny and running funny. And when I first blew the motor in 12, we rebuilt the motor, went full internals, bottom end, forged pistons. I think they were SuperTech pistons in an 8.6 to 8.6 compression ratio, and Eagle rods.
Nice.
So everything was fortified at the bottom end, along with nitride rings.
Okay.
Blah,
so
blah, blah.
Built
So
engine.
built engine to handle the boost and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it went fine on it. But the weak point on the KAs is the head separating from the block.
Yeah.
So that's what happened the latter half of that championship year. The good news was this happened later in the year when I had the championship already locked up.
Okay.
I had won enough races to where nobody could catch me on points. And pretty much it was just victory laps at that point, running out there and having fun. And I remember before one of my practice runs, the car wasn't going to run right. And I said, this is shaking too much. This is bad. And I pulled out. I pulled out and I said, no, and then had to pull the car out of there and take it back to shop. And I didn't compete with it the rest of the season. But the best part about that whole weekend, I remember, is that everybody up and down the paddock, you know, in the pits and stuff, had asked me, what happened to your car? What happened to your car? And I remember this, and they say, hey, if you can't run your car tomorrow, I'll let you run my car.
Community.
I had about
nice.
5 or 6 guys come out and say, if you need to run my car, I'll let you run my car. And that really touched me.
That's awesome.
You know, and that's the thing about the autocross community, is that I think the best thing I got out of it was the camaraderie and the friendships that I made over the years. You know, I don't think I'd trade that for the world.
It's priceless.
It's priceless. I mean, you can't put a dollar amount or a price tag on that. It's invaluable.
Yeah.
That's why I would say to newbies that if you're hesitant about doing autocross or getting into motorsports and stuff, just do it, because you will encounter a lot of experiences and encounter a lot of people that you think you'd never do or even meet. And then that might lead you to something even greater, right? Or make you realize a lot of other things too as well. Yeah. A lot of good life lessons too I've learned along the way, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
So yeah, that weekend I remember just people just offering me this, offering me that. And I think I ended up driving an FRS that weekend just to compete in because it was offered. So I took it.
Nice.
But yeah, it just, that sense of community, you get that with that autocross community. You get guys that will give you the shirt off your back to help you out.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, with that said, Hart, at that moment, could you say that you recognized you had the talent, or at least good enough to where you were able to compete? And
good
win?
Enough. Because, I mean, there are a lot of good talented drivers I went up against. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think about times when I figured I had the talent. I mean, the one time that really pointed this out was, or actually showed that to me, was when I competed in Gymkhana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, ironically enough.
Yeah.
Because drifting came about, but then also there's Gymkhana too. And I actually got my biggest win back in 2008 in Pomona. Because this is back then when they ran Gymkhanas at the balcony at Willow Springs, at Streets of Willow there, right? At the balcony there. And it used to be put on by Carboy. If you know what Carboy, this magazine that was in Japan, that was kind of like Option magazine, but also did their own thing, their own take on cars and stuff. But it was sponsored by Carboy. Okay. And they used to hold it every single month. And I got good at Gymkhana with my car and everything, you know, and even at the power level I had. And I was competing NA at that time, by the way, in 08.
Nice.
And so, long story short, there was this big competition they had with they're running at the same time as Hot Import Nights in Pomona. Yeah. And we had our own thing, and, you know, had to climb up the ladder. And there were other people out there at the time that were coming with purpose-built, like S15s, you know, FCs and stuff that I was competing against, but it wasn't all about the power. It was all about really just driving the driver and driving the course well and everything. So I remember being nerve-wracked that time, because what Gymkhana is, what a lot of you don't know, is you're racing against another guy. It's like drag racing with turns. Put it that way, right? You're racing on a mirror image course with the other guy next to you, and it's a drag race start. So you have to take off at the same time, do the course and do it right. You have to remember it because it's a mirror image course left to right. So you have to get through it quick, beat the other guy through there, but if you spin, it's a 0. So it's nerve-wracking. And then after you do your first run, you got to switch and do the other side of the course, and then do the opposite. Wow. And that's how it works. And you got to do 2 runs back to back, opposite court, and then switch your mind around. Wow. And I went through that, and I ended up standing on the top step of the podium, which was surreal to me. Wow. And it's just wow. So that was my biggest win. And I think that was one of the moments that I realized, okay, I got some talent.
That's amazing.
I think I'm cool. I think you could do this.
That's good. Yeah. Right? I like that.
Yeah.
Now, Hart, with all that said, what would you say is next for you?
That's tough. I mean, part of me wants to get back into autocrossing again, which I haven't been able to do for many years because family and obligations there. So maybe I might, who knows? Still want to keep coaching because, you know, never in a million years did I think I'd be coaching where I coach right now and be doing what I'm doing right now, you know, because there are times when like I'm doing all this racing stuff, you know, what is it going to amount to? You know, is it all going to pay off someday? Right. And all those years of just being out there in the sun, getting sunburnt, you know, competing with other guys there into sweating, you know, blood, sweat, and tears and all that stuff, and being with the cars and being with the people, I guess it culminated in this, right? Yes. So, but I know there's stuff I'd want to do beyond that. It's just what to do. maybe private coaching. I don't know. We'll see. Because at this point, it's like, I think a lot of options I have available. And I haven't really thought that far ahead.
Yeah.
Although I'd like to, get back into autocrossing at some point and maybe do a little track, because I haven't really been out there just due to everything.
Nice.
That's the thing. So, we'll see. I mean, it's stay tuned at this point, right?
Yes, definitely. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And Hart, if you, any listeners out there that heard you that want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
You can contact me on email, hartphoenix13@gmail. So it's HARTPHX13@gmail.com. Hit me up over there. Maybe I'll hit you back because I have a lot of a lot of people I keep in contact that way in terms of like racing and stuff. So they can hit me up that way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And Hart, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise and everything you've experienced through your wisdom you've collected. I'm sure the camaraderie that you've acquired over time, it's all just built up to, your full experience. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That just reminds me of, when I was growing up, I saw best motoring videos, right? And obviously that inspired me to want to drive. And then when I finally had my first track day, I knew that, I actually want to do time attack. And now that I do time attack, several cars later, I'm in the 8.6 and, full circle moment to where now I'm at that point to where I'm good enough to where people recognize my talent and I can actually be in a position to help them. Yeah. So I'm sure you felt that full circle moment too. And that's beautiful. So, that's just one of my memories that jogged while I was talking to you.
Yeah. Well, congrats also too on the first places you placed too, and you've been placing well. So that's good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good. Keep that up.
Definitely. Shifted Perspective is produced by Sociology of Everything, supported by 0 to 60 Wraps, now in Buena Park and the city of Walnut, California. I'm your host, Shift. Please feel free to reach out to me on social media found in the description or email me at shift@sociologyofeverything. Together, we shift perspective, expand possibilities, and become an insider. Thank you so much for listening, and see you guys next week.